Hey, what's up, boys and girls? Grown men, ladies, kids, cats. Hey, who's ever watching? We're glad that you found us here on the OH Report, where it is time for some tournament talk. My name is Brian Skowronski, and joining me right here and now on a virtual call is Travis Berardi, one of our OH reporters, and we're going to break down some of the upcoming games that we have going down this weekend, live and free here on the OH Report. Tons of great games on the menu, Travis. Of course, we've got the end of the regular season for the boys, and then some killer girls tournament games.
Yeah, going to be a busy Saturday for us too. We have a bunch of sectional final games, but we have games as well tonight. I know I'll be at Mount Gilead as they take on their final regular season game. But then tomorrow, big day, I'm going to be doing Northmore at East Knox for a sectional championship, and then heading up 13 a little bit to Fredericktown as they play their sectional championship. You got a big one at Pete Henry Gymnasium, Ontario hosting Mansfield Senior. We have a whole lot more. It's going to be an exciting weekend.
Hey, two big ones for me actually at Pete Henry Gym on Saturday. Looking forward to a back-to-back girls and boys. And then tonight I'm going to be over at Upper Sandusky, where the Rams going to be competing to try to move on to the sectional championship. But first, Travis, the all First Team District 6 list has been put out, and we have lots of players right here in our own backyard that are mentioned, including a couple of Players of the Year. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the big guns in Division 1, where no bigger gun than Luke Dembo, named Player of the Year, Travis, in D1. So, man, what an accomplishment for this kid. He had a huge season when you look at him on paper. This kid was dynamite.
Yeah, 22 points per game, 6.5 assists per game, 4.8 rebounds, and 3.1 steals. He leads an Ashland squad that gets 3 first-team players. Him, Eli White, who averaged 17 points per game, and Grayson Strury, who averaged 17.5 per game. And I believe in a game that you covered up at Ashland, all 3 of them combined for over, 70 points?
Yeah, I think that's about right. And crazy enough, I mean, if you just look at the season averages, that's kind of the status quo for this group. It's the best collection of guards that I've personally seen with my own eyes on a high school basketball court. As Luke, just a junior, mind you, already over 1,000 points and the D1 Player of the Year in his district. That kid's unbelievable. But you mentioned the other sidekicks that they have. I mean, it's not often that Batman gets 2 Robins, but that's the case here. This guy, he's the senior standout. He's the leader on the team, I think, a little bit verbally, and the way that he carries himself. Eli White, also another huge year for them.
Yeah, and then, like I said, adding Grayson Strury. This team, a 6th seed in their district bracket. They're playing for a sectional championship. But this is a team that could possibly at least make it to a district championship game, which is a big accomplishment because you know that Division I bracket is always tough with teams from top to bottom competing pretty much year in and year out.
That's right. And a quick honorable mention shout out to Jaden Jeffries, first team performer out of Madison. He had over 10 points per game. And if you haven't looked lately, the Rams 3-3 in their last 6 after an 0-8 start. So they're starting to get it together a little bit. But Ashland, of course, the cream of the crop in Division 1. In D2, we have a lot more local teams right here in North Central Ohio that were represented, including, again, we had the Player of the Year playing in our own backyard, Travis. None other than Timothy James Pugh.
And he's a player that we expected to do this year. He's been a stud in his years at Shelby. 24.8 points per game, 5.3 assists, 8.3 rebounds, 2.9 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game. He can do it all, and he is just when you see him, you think about Showtime, because he can just put on a show for you. And, you know, his buddy down there, Cody Lance, Batman and Robin, another, comparison to that, 16.1 points per game, but they got Shelby back to another MOAC outright championship and the top seed in that Division II Ashland district.
Yeah, but make no mistake, definitely TJ is the Batman to that Robin down there, the 1 and 2. We'll get to TJ in a second, but we got to focus first on the Ontario Warrior senior, Griffin Shaver. This kid, another dynamic season, almost 17 points a game for him, 4 assists per contest, 14-5 record. Ontario is always good under Joe Baylog, and Griffin Shaver, one of the very few 4-year starters that Coach Joe's ever had. But then how about Cody Lance, man? This is the most improved player in the area, in my opinion. He was good last year, make no mistake. I think he was probably like a second teamer on this list, but Cody Lance can flat out take you off the dribble anytime he wants. You see how explosive he is. He just bounces up off of the hardwood, and then his three-point shooting, Travis, I think he's over 50% this year after being right around 25% three-point shooter last year. Cody Lance, very improved.
Yeah, and we saw him in Summer League, in the AAU circuit. That's when he really started taking off. And another guy that's taken off, Gavin Carey at Upper Sandusky. Him along with, Trent Beamer and Cade Adams. They're a team that, I've said it before, they might be one of the sleeper teams in Division II, the Ashland bracket too. They had a couple tough losses early on to good teams, but, they can make some noise as well.
Yeah, Carey almost averaging a double-double. Logan Beeston, this kid's just a sophomore. He's the baby of the group. We only saw him one time on a live stream, but he had so many highlights in this game, Travis, that we thought that we had to include him on the list. Unbelievable performance and a comeback victory for Columbian over the Rams on that night. And those are your first team selections, D2 District 6, that we had some video for. And shout out to LJ Reeves, too, the teammate of Logan, who was also a first teamer that had a nice dynamite game in that win over the Rams. Let's move on, though, now and talk about Division 3. More players represented that we've covered here on the OH Report this season. And at the top of the list, you're going to look at the Player of the Year in Luke Rollinson. This kid is very similar, in my opinion, to Cody Lance, with the exception of he just gets more looks, more touches. He was unbelievable this year, Trav.
Yeah, he's a stud that sent Western Reserve to yet another Firelands Conference championship. I believe an undefeated record in the Firelands Conference. Yeah, four straight for them now under Coach Sheldon, not David Sheldon, but his brother. They had one of the best games early on this season, Western Reserve and Colonel Crawford. You got to think that might be that Division III district championship game, and he edged out Carter Valentine, who isn't that bad of a player as well, for Player of the Year. You could have had it either way with those two, but Luke Rollinson, he is the real deal, and Western Reserve with him and John Scrata have a chance of making a big run.
Yeah, Scrata's going to make this list too. 17-2 were the Rough Riders, over 24 points per game for Rollinson. But then Carter Valentine, no slouch, like you mentioned. This kid scores more than 18 per contest. His team is still undefeated, state-ranked. And I think that you would have to put Carter also in the conversation for most improved player in the area. Again, he had a killer sophomore year last year when the Eagles went all the way to the regional round. But Carter, this season, he's almost unguardable. You can calculate him for about 14, 15 points per night. Sometimes he can go for like 25. And then you got kids like Mason Studer, always a knockdown shooter on the outside. He can also handle really well, control the offense. And then you mentioned Scrata too. So those guys all right there, some amazing guards in Division III.
Yeah, and going back to Carter Valentine real quick, 63% from the field and 37% from three, and that's what helped Crawford to that undefeated season, even though they lost a couple seniors that helped them get to that regional last year. A couple others that we'll be seeing coming up here shortly from Willard, Miles Kingston, 14 points per game, but he can do it all, especially off the dribble, as you can see right here, just able to take you to the hole. And even if you're right in front of him, he will still find a way to get it in the hoop.
Yeah, I like Miles actually as more of a post threat. So the fact that he's added the adaptability to be able to take you off the bounce from the perimeter, he's always been able to do that. We've seen him blocking shots his entire high school career. But Evan Hamilton, how about the resurgence this season of Crestview? John Kurtz comes back to the program, and he takes this kid that we knew was a high firepower type of offensive athlete and has really crafted him into one of the best players that we have in North Central Ohio. 19 points a game for Hamilton this season. Pretty good.
Yeah, and he went over the 1,000-point mark, and he has a couple sidekicks with him that, like you said, got Coach Kurtz's team back to what could be a sectional championship year, but they have that tough draw in Division III. Crestview, that resurgence led by Evan Hamilton, the multi-sport stud.
And then last but not least, we've got the guys playing for the small schools in Division 4. The player of the year didn't play in our backyard, but we still want to give some love to Colin Nutter. Awesome name, too. And I love the
Yeah.
Old Fort mascot. He's a Division 4 player of the year. He filled it up. They're having a phenomenal season out there in Old Fort, and haven't got to see this kid play with my own eyes, but I have seen this kid right here, Nick Winslow. What another level he's brought his game to after being a 3-year starter for them. Now in his senior year, his 4th year as a starter, he has lifted his game, elevated it to the next level, over 21 points a game for number 21.
Yeah, 21 and a half points per game, but then you look at his brother Nate, that dynamic duo of the twins really have gotten St. Paul almost to the peak. They were number 1 in Division 4 last year, but that tough district they're in with South Central and Lucas and St. Mary's Central Catholic, they just couldn't make it. But like I said, for South Central, David Lamoureux, he went over 1,000 points this year. He is just dominant in the post, averaging over 18 points per game.
And I saw Lamoureux on 2 different occasions against Crestview make crazy clutch plays down the stretch that helped elevate them to a couple of big wins. And Isaac Roeder is another kid that we saw on the AAU circuit making some noise for the Ohio Buckets. Yeah, see what he's doing for Monroeville. No drop-off during the high school campaign. And then how about Cade Crawford for Cary, another dynamic playmaker that can do inside and outside. And that's kind of a theme for a lot of our players here that are technically guards, but they can go inside and do a lot of great things. And then Ethan Sotter playing for the Lucas Cubs. I mean, how long has this kid been there starting at point guard? It seems like half a decade now.
Yeah, and not only his offense, 14 points per game, picking up for a couple losses they had last year due to injury and graduation, but the defense, that is what's gotten Lucas to where they are. But then you see in their game against Crestview, they can put up the points as well.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that all the kids that they lost to graduation, the Lucas Cubs, a season ago that went all the way to the regional championship before COVID ended their season. And then no Riley Gossam this year. I think that's what's most impressive about what Sotter's been able to accomplish this year. 3 straight Mid-Buckeye championships, and they were without their big gun, the all-time leading scorer in the history of one season for Lucas. So congratulations to them. And the Cubs might be on our menu for this weekend. We have so many games that it's hard to keep track of at this point, Travis. But let's go ahead and take a look now at the games that are coming up on our live streams, live and free, always on the OH Report on our Facebook page, as well as our collection of YouTube channels. And we'll begin on Saturday afternoon, where our guys Garrett Parlett, Storm Blunchley, they're going to be on the call for a really good end-of-season N10 showdown.
Yeah, these two teams in the top 4, I believe, in the Northern 10. Upper Sandusky probably going to finish in that 2-3 spot, but they're fighting with Mohawk. The seeds are out. Crawford's already locked up the top spot in the Northern 10, the overall championship, but you still got bragging rights and you still got that positioning. You want to say, hey, we were better than Mohawk, or Mohawk, we were better than Upper Sandusky. Just look at the records last year. Bragging rights are up for grabs here, and some good momentum going into their district tournaments.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I believe we have, 6 live streams going on Saturday, so a lot to talk about, and I know that you're going to be on the call. And you were really excited about this game right here. You weren't initially scheduled to do it, and you were like, no, I need to be down in Howard to see the Golden Knights go battle down there. So you get to see that head-to-head right there in the KMAC. Good stuff.
Coach Beachy versus Coach Chip. East Knox, what a story for them. We saw them, the volleyball team, they were scrappy team. The boys basketball team, scrappy. The football team, but this girls team, they are a scrappy squad. Most didn't think they were going to be able to do anything this year, but they got a high seed. They have a home sectional final against one of their rivals in Northmore. And Northmore's chomping at the bit to try and get back at East Knox for their 2 losses this year. But, could be a fun day down in Howard. East Knox could get another number up there in their banners for a sectional championship, something that most didn't think would even be possible for this team this year. And the same for Northmore. They won a district sectional championship last year, and they're looking to make it 2 straight. And, both these teams will try and scrap and fight to get to districts, and it's one I'm really looking forward to.
All right, on to our next game on the matchup menu, and more ladies hoops, and it's another cross-county rivalry. Matter of fact, these two schools separated basically just by one road. If you just cruise down Park Avenue, you're going to get to each of them. So they know each other, a lot of familiarity there. And the Tigers on the rise. The Warriors have the best player in this matchup, but a lot of really young, good athletes on the Mansfield Senior side. So we've got another fun one going on in the afternoon.
Yeah, and a couple of St. Peter's transfers as well, since St. Pete's didn't have their team this year. They come over, Kaya Wentz leading that squad, and they have Mansfield Senior peaking at the right time. But then you look at Ontario. What did they do in their sectional semifinal? They upset Clyde at Clyde's place at the buzzer to pull off this one. And Coach Willicke, he always has his team playing, but Coach Javar standing up in that defensive pose all game. It's going to be a really fun matchup, and yeah, I'm kind of jealous that you get to call this one, but that's probably gonna be one of the best games of the day between these two teams, and a spot in the district semifinal at Ashland up for grabs.
Well, don't worry, Travis. You still have one more game that you get a call on
Yes, I
Saturday.
do.
Let's take a look at that
And the
matchup.
one,
And how about the Fredericktown Freddies going head to head with the Lions? And I love this Fredericktown team. They're such a good group of athletes. I wouldn't say that they really have a standout basketball player, but they have a whole collection of girls that can run, that can jump. They're always blocking shots, getting after you defensively. I think the Freddies are a really fun team to enjoy watching.
and this is seeding wise one of the best games of the day, because I believe it's a 4-7 matchup in a sectional final. Liberty Union, one of those teams that didn't decide to take the bye. So in this central district, it's broken up into two separate districts, but it's seeded 1 through, I believe, 32. So this is probably one of the best matchups that you're going to see throughout the whole central district, and it's going to go down at Fredericktown.
And then one more KMAC team is going to be hosting on Saturday night as well, that being the Mount Gilead Lady Indians, going head-to-head with the Grandview Heights Bobcats. Garrett Parlett, Storm Blunchley are going to be on the call for this one. And Mount Gilead, they're a team that I've seen in person with my own eyes, I think 3-4 times this season. And when they have it going on, Travis, when things are smooth, they're about as good as I have seen. So their ceiling, their top floor, it's pretty high. I like the Lady Indians in this one.
Yeah, and I believe the Division 4, they played Division 3, competition all year in Cardington Lincoln and Fredericktown and teams like that. But, just being able to play those teams and playing them tough gave them the number 5 seed in their district, and already a sectional semifinal. They're getting a sectional final, so 2 more home games, and they've deserved it. Like you said, they are a good team, and they have a really good shot of making a district semifinal.
All right, and then our final meal of the night on the menu, we go back to the boys. This is a regular season game. Mansfield Senior finishing up their OCC schedule against West Holmes. Two teams that are right there at the top middle of the pack in the conference. And this to me is an interesting game for both teams. West Holmes coming off of a tough loss. The Tigers have not been playing well as of late. You want to get one last victory and get that taste of success back in your mouth before you go into tournament play. But only one of these teams can do it, Travis.
Yeah, and both teams in tough districts. West Holmes in the East District, they're actually going up against teams that I played against back in West Virginia when we played Ohio squads. And then Mansfield Senior, as we already talked about, you have Shelby, you have Ontario, you have Upper Sandusky at the top of that Division II Ashland district. But Mansfield Senior, both teams, actually, you need to get some momentum going into those games, because both sides, a sectional semifinal for most districts is pretty much a cakewalk. But for these two teams, their district is so packed that they can't afford a letdown. So they need some of that momentum going into that game.
All right, and then just a little bit of icing on top of the cake is that we are also going to have coverage of the MOAC Wrestling Championships. We've got our star intern, Mason Neese, that's going to be on top of that with all the other beautiful scoops of high school hoops that we have at your disposal on Saturday. So which game, Travis, out of all of the entire menu that you can chow down on, are you going to be most looking forward to feasting on?
And I've already said, and if you see the little icon of me, don't sleep on this game. Fredericktown, their game, their sectional final, I already said it. Them and Liberty Union, the 4-7 matchup, probably the best matchup of seeding in the Central District. That one is going to be fun to call on Saturday night at Fredericktown.
I love how you said don't sleep on that game when you're clearly sleeping there on the graphic. Hopefully, I'm
That's
a little bit more alive,
exactly why I
alert,
meant that.
awake, enthusiastic for mine. And I am geeked up for Ontario versus Mansfield Senior because I love that it's a true underdog story for both teams. Neither was supposed to be in this game. They both had to win on the road to even get to this point. Mansfield Senior had no thoughts of hosting a sectional championship going into Saturday. And here they are in a position at 4 in the afternoon where they get to be the first appetizer before the boys game at the night. And of course, they want to get a big win over their Richland County rivals too. So I'm looking forward to this big time to see if Coach Hudgens can get that defensive stance on the sideline to translate out on the floor with his girls going toe to toe with Coach Wilkie and his bunch. So a huge Saturday here on the OH Report. Tons of live streams going down, and we can't wait to be on the call. Me and Travis, you can catch us on 2 games on Saturday. We're each going to be on a game tonight. And then the tournament coverage, I just finished up putting together our schedule for the next couple of weeks. Oh my goodness, do we have lots of games coming up for you guys live and free. So it's going to be a fun time here once we get rolling into tournament action. And that's going to do it for right now, this edition of Tournament Talk.